Hello, everyone. Here with another edition of the Ottawa Market, where we sometimes will usually do food commentary, but sometimes social commentary as well. And I'm just doing a follow up on the previous video I had about concerns that our new Prime Minister Mark Carney is, while presenting himself as someone who is very strongly for Canadian sovereignty, which is what most Canadians want as far as a strong, independent, sovereign relationship to the United States. I suspected that this is not his necessarily true intent. This is why in the previous video we discussed that, and lo and behold, today I guess many Canadians are hearing about this article, also published not only in Canadian newspapers and different media, but also in the BBC, about Canada in talks with the U.S. to join Trump's Golden Dome defense system. Now, just to give you some background on this, this type of missile defense system was something which was proposed by the United States to previous Canadian governments, including Jean Chrétien, most notably in the 1990s, and Paul Martin. Both prime ministers rejected this because both prime ministers appreciated, and even before this annexation talk of Trump, that any further enhancement to Canada's social security relationship with the United States in the form of a missile defense system is going to be actually a pretext to annexation. John Chrétien realized this in the 1990s, and Paul Martin realized this as well. And this is a very, very bad thing for Canada. And all those Canadians who are concerned about sovereignty and not wanting this 51st annexation agenda need to start to sound the alarm bells on this, because what this is going to do is that it's going to require American military personnel to likely be in Canada, and compromising our ability to be a sovereign, independent nation in many ways concerning defense policy. We already have NORAD, and this whole missile defense system is not what it actually sounds like. It's more, much more. It's going to compromise our sovereignty. Now let's step back on this whole missile defense initiative. Now, according to Mr. Carney, our prime minister, um, he got a mandate from Canada to negotiate a new sort of what he says. Canadians gave the prime minister a strong mandate to negotiate a comprehensive new security and economic relationship with the United States. No, um, we gave the prime minister a mandate to stand up for the Canadian sovereignty, not to pull ourselves even further to some sort of type of continentalist environment where we're going to further, where we're going to be, where it's on the road to annexation. This whole defense Golden Dome is a pretext to the conquest of Canada. People need to start realizing this. People need to start going back and what Joe Chrétien thought about this, and Paul Martin, who was he was very pro-American, Paul Martin, relatively speaking, but he knew that this was a bad, 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 bad idea for Canada. Now, let me tell you about this defense system, because I have a background actually in international relationship, international relations rather. Now, first of all, in a place like Israel, the Golden Dome is critical because Israel is, surrounded by hostile states, so to speak, and one can understand why a small country like Israel would need it. It's absolutely pretty much necessary for their national survival, but not the United States. Um, the United States has not had any experience with missiles being fired in the United States by any type of country. No country's that stupid enough to do that. So why spend hundreds of billions of dollars in this so-called Golden Dome? Of course, we know that the United States is spending trillions and zillions of dollars on more and more nuclear weapons to, with its counterpart in Russia, that would annihilate Earth many, 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 probably thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times over and over. So this is again, and now with this, from a financial standpoint, who is going to be attacking Canada? Why is Canada in a hostile environment that it requires? This is an imminent strategy that it requires a golden dome? No. What we need in Canada is to ensure that we develop our military strategy and the defense policy that makes sure that it's independent as possible and that we don't get annexed. Not that we put ourselves in some environment of a dome where we're going to be vulnerable to annex. That is like somebody threatening to rape you and you lock yourself in a room with a rapist. How is that going to be a sensible policy? It's outrageous. Now, so what we have here is that Mr. Carney, Prime Minister, is being a hypocrite here. He's being two-mouthed. 1 minute he's saying that he's for sovereignty, and now he's slipping us into a compromised relationship with the United States. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, Mr. Carney is in finance. He is a businessman. People have said that, who before, even when the election was taking place, that he had a dubious relationship to Canada. He spent a lot of time in England. He has a lot of his investments in the United States. His kids were apparently being schooled in the United States, living in New York City, allegedly. So we have someone who has said nice things and says all the right things to get elected. But what is he actually doing here? He's a businessman, and as a businessman, he seems to be putting Canada on the auction block and is not showing, signs that he's actually for sovereignty. He's just talking a lot of stuff. Now, here we have, so we have the I've identified basically that this whole dome business, it's a threat to Canadian sovereignty. It's just absolutely shocking. We need to do something about this. And he's doing this, Mr. Carney, without any kind of debate in a very presidential style. He doesn't say, okay, thank you, President Trump. We'll discuss and debate this in House of Commons, whether they want to do it or not. He just announces that he has the mandate. No, this was never discussed. This Golden Dome was never discussed in any election campaign, so he has no mandate to discuss to be pursuing some deal without it being vetted by Parliament. This is outrageous. The other issue, apart from the vital issue of Canadian sovereignty, in terms of why this is a bad deal and very ominous for anybody who wants the independent survival of Canada from the American military taking it under the pretext that it has to because of some, relationship to protecting North America, so to speak, through some dome and the installation of military bases to facilitate that. We also have the situations of what's the motivation here for President Trump, creating this dome in the first place? Well, the nuclear doctrine that has governed us since World War II is what is called mutually assured destruction. That is that by Russia and the United States and making themselves vulnerable each to a nuclear attack and not protecting themselves with a dome, they're actually ensuring an environment where nobody is going to be pulling the trigger because everybody is assured that each other will be destroyed. Now, when you put a dome, and start to fortify yourself with a dome, it's not because you're thinking that as the United States that there's maybe North Korea or somebody's going to shoot a missile in. No, I don't think that, that's going to be a concern, But what it is that it is part of, in my view, a strategy of contemplating some offensive attack against somebody who might have the ability to defend themselves, so that you are defended with a dome to protect yourself against an offensive warfare strategy. So we know that Mr. President Trump is an expansionist, arguably based upon many have called him a fascist. Definitely picking up on eerily resembling the sort of the Lebensraum version of expanding American power all over the place. The only reason, in my view, that President Trump would rationally contemplate a dome is that he's thinking of perhaps attacking various countries in an offensive capacity and using this dome to protect his back door from these reactions in this offensive style of warfare. So this dome is not supporting any type of secure environment, and when it's being used and pushed by someone who has a very much a expansionist military agenda, then having a dome would complement a country wanting to attack other countries and then use the dome, and even Russia, is destabilizing the relationship between two nuclear powers, because all of a sudden Russia is going to be worried that, okay, well, they're going to be building a dome. So are they going to attack us? Do they think they can win a nuclear war? So this is what happens when you start doing stuff like this. Mr. Carney is acting in a very selfish and hypocritical manner, and we as Canadians need to wake up that this is absolutely has been rejected by previous Canadian governments who didn't even have to worry about an American president threatening imminent annexation. This is destructive to our sense of identity and our sense of sovereignty. We cannot afford Mr. Carney to get away with this, and this sort of presidential maneuver that he's having to not to debate and discuss this. He has no mandate for it, and it's destabilizing for for the current environment. Is not going to support any type of security, and Canadians do not need to be contributing billions and billions of dollars when we can barely support our healthcare system. We have more and more poor people all over the place. We have declining infrastructure. We have problems in sustaining urban infrastructure, housing, and now even Mr. Carney is contemplating a golden dome to detract us from all the different responsibilities, including Aboriginal rights, Aboriginal communities not having running water. All these things are being overshot by this dome contemplation. So we are being sucked into an American priority system, which is outrageous, which has gotten worse with Trump. Somebody who is contemplating annexing Canada, expand military, taking over Greenland, it's outrageous, So it is a disturbing turn of events. I encourage Canadians to start to debate and discuss this, because right now, Mr. Carney, Prime Minister, is saying that they're in negotiations with the United States, with the Trump administration. The same people want to annex us. He's in negotiations without even putting this through Parliament. That's what we have Parliament for. This is outrageous. So I invite Canadians to circulate this video, to start a debate on this, and to discuss whether Mr. Carney, as I told him, I announced before the election, while the election was going on, I suspect he's trying to sell us out. I wish it wasn't true, but this is what's going on here, and we need to wake up that this Golden Dome idea is absolutely the worst thing that we could be contemplating with somebody trying to annex us. We need to focus on an independent foreign policy that's going to protect us. We need to focus on building up our Canadian forces separate from the United States to protect us from from an annexation, this foreign policy of the states. We don't need to be locking ourselves into some hostile room with somebody who has been announced billions of times over that he wants to take us over. So thank you very much for listening to the Ottawa Market. This is just, again, I'm putting this out there as entertainment. Entertainment, opinion, personal opinion, social commentary, just the debate and the discuss. So take this as entertainment, and I look forward to any comments you might have on this video. Thank you very much again for watching this on this whole topic of announced on the BBC, Canada in talks with U.S. to join Trump's Golden Dome defense system. I urge everybody, the Canadians, start talking about this because this is absolutely outrageous. Thank you very much for watching the Ottawa Market.